April showers bring May flowers, but for some of us, it also brings misery and suffering. You're in luck. Today, this video is just for you. I'm sure that you have probably tried every allergy medication known to man possible, and may even be wondering just how to deal with seasonal allergies naturally at this point. If that sounds like you, then you are in the right place, because I am here to answer that question in today's video. Let's dive right on in. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelly Shockley, Doctor of Cause, chiropractic, board certified in sports medicine, and specialized in clinical nutrition. In this video, we're going to be revealing the biggest trigger of your allergies that cannot be detected on an allergy test, no matter how many times you try. Next, I'll be discussing with you the top foods that could amplify all your allergies and absolutely should be avoided at least during your allergy season. Then, I'm going to actually share with you what foods you should include into your diet during your allergy season that can boost your ability to not be taken out by everything that's around you in your environment. And these can all help alleviate those allergy symptoms. And finally, I'm going to be sharing with you the top nutrients that can stop allergy symptoms in their tracks and are completely safe to use. And sometimes they work even better than those over the counters. Let's dive right on in. Now, who is that biggest trigger that cannot be detected through traditional allergy tests? Well, it's called stress. You see, stress very much so aggravates our body and lowers our threshold, which ultimately makes us more susceptible to things that are in the air and in our environment. When you lower a threshold, what used to not be perceived from your body as an irritant now actually can be perceived as an irritant. And there's two ways that this actually happens in our bodies. But first, let's explain just a little bit about what happens when we're stressed. This is part of our survival mechanism. If you've ever heard of the fight or flight response, that is our body's response to something that we have to now survive. Back in the day, it was when you'd face the saber-toothed tiger and you were either going to fight that guy or you were to hightail it out of there and get into safety. Your body goes through this orchestrated set of events that occur partly as a response to the release of the stress hormone known as cortisol. Some of what happens is during this response, your body has to get prepared to fight or run. So a lot of our blood flow actually gets diverted away from our digestive system, which is where your immune system lives, and out into your arms and your legs, so you could literally fight or flee. Your blood pressure actually increases heart rate increases so that we can get more blood flow to our muscles to be able to fight or free, and so many other things that help you to survive that stressful event. And that's fine. That's part of how we were designed to survive. But the problem is when stress becomes chronic, and now you have this huge set of events that are happening all of the time, and your body never is able to go back to what its normal set of functions are supposed to be, which part of that is immune system regulation. So there's two ways that stress can be harmful to your immune system. The first way is that stress creates this chronic level of inflammation that's really harmful to any tissue in your body. Inflammation is the root cause of all disease and illness. And as I was mentioning beforehand about a threshold, if you are becoming inflamed, your threshold starts to decrease. And think of it as there's a spectrum. On one hand, we've got like our little old grandma who gets out of bed barely and then has to sit back down because that was so traumatic to her body and such a process to do. And then on the other end, we put our elite, our Olympic, our pro athletes who are doing the non-human and seem completely invincible. So this continuum, this spectrum, if you will, it's the same for everybody. The question is, where are you? Depending on where you fall on the spectrum dictates what your threshold is to the world around you. As stress happens and it becomes chronic and we get this inflammation, our threshold starts to decrease. Now, what our body never perceived as a stress or an irritant, it now perceives as an irritant. The second way that stress negatively affects your immune system is it actually suppresses your immune system. And it does this because we only have so many nutrients in our body. And more of these nutrients that are required to produce immune cells actually get used up to help our body fight or flee. So you legitimately are losing out on having your supply of, police that are there to get the bad guys. So the biggest thing about this being one of your largest triggers for allergies is finding a good way to start coping with stress or managing stress. I mean, we live in a day and a time where stress is always going to exist. So unfortunately, there's no cure to make us invincible to it. But by implementing daily stress management types of techniques, whether it's deep breathing, meditation, exercise, whatever calms you and soothes you, that's something you need to do on an ongoing basis to help your body flip out of this flight or fight state. And when you do that, then you allow the alerts to come down and you allow your body to start functioning the way that it was meant to when it wasn't in this temporary stage of, survival, which allows your immune system to start producing more of its immune cells and the inflammation level to come down, which ultimately, guys, is going to raise your threshold and make you stronger and not be taken out by as many things that are floating in the environment. Have you ever asked yourself a question, like, why do some people have allergies and others don't? I think a big piece of this is depending on where that person's threshold is. For one person who has a high threshold, their body doesn't perceive whatever's floating around in the air, in the environment, as an irritant. For somebody else, they could be living in the same environment, but if their threshold's a bit lower, now they can perceive that as an irritant. So let's work on getting your stress managed by doing daily stress relieving methods, techniques. And honestly, if you have a hard time doing stuff for yourself, put it in your phone. Make yourself an appointment and treat it as if it was a client or a special event. Do not cancel on yourself. Do not no-show. Okay? This is critically important and could be like your secret weapon for actually getting a grip on your allergies. Now, I'm curious, did you know that stress actually was probably your biggest trigger for allergy symptoms? That's kind of crazy, right? Let me know your response down in the comments below. And if that totally makes sense, let me know. If it's not, or you don't think that's part of it, I also want to know that too. So just comment down below what your thought is about stress being one of the biggest triggers of allergy symptoms. What are the foods that amplify seasonal allergy symptoms? There is a list, and it's not really short, but some of these make sense because in general, they're not the best things for us to be consuming if we want to be healthy. And going back to that threshold, when we eat healthy, it increases our threshold as well. When we are choosing to eat things that we know are not necessarily great for us, it's going to lower that threshold too. So what you're choosing to eat is really important of how well your body's going to be able to live in the environment that you're currently living in. So let's get going. Okay, what are these foods? Well, you've got alcohol, caffeine, artificial sweeteners, processed foods, prepackaged foods. I mean, these things we already know we probably shouldn't be consuming, right? There's also conventional dairy. And I say conventional because if we are using products and consuming meats from cows that are raised the way that God intended them, grass-fed, grass-finished, not eating grains, not being injected with hormones and antibiotics, and ideally using raw milk to create raw milk products, you'll probably be okay. But conventional dairy is the dairy that come from cows that unfortunately are being injected with all of that stuff and eating corn. It's not how God intended them to be raised. Those cows are full of inflammation. They're full of these antibiotics and hormones that get passed on to you as well. And that can be really stressful for just overall health and well-being. But then also with dairy is great at thickening mucus. So if you, with your seasonal allergies, produce a lot of mucus, this is something you probably want to avoid, whether it's conventional or not, just so you're not thickening that lovely material you're producing a huge amount of. Some of these are also common food allergies. So peanuts and shellfish. There's something about them that it can be a little bit more difficult for the body to process and handle correctly. So just not layering on common types of allergens will be helpful for keeping your threshold high and your symptoms low. With that, there's certain foods that are related to different trees and grasses that also should be avoided during allergy season. And those would be like our melons, okay? Other things that are on this list are bananas, cucumbers, sunflower seeds, bottled citrus juice, which I'm not the biggest advocate of juice in general. I mean, if you're fresh juicing and getting the pulp and all the goodness, that you could probably get away with minorly. But again, lots of sugars within our fruits and juices, which increase inflammation in a different way that stress increases inflammation, but long-term, like end result, the same. Okay. And the rest on here are also kind of shocking because people often will take echinacea for the immune system, but it may not be the best thing for you to be using if you have seasonal allergies, or at least during the season that your allergies seem to be the most intense. Also, chamomile, which can be really calming and soothing to the body, is not the best thing to be using during your allergy season. And then other classics that are common allergens and really probably shouldn't be consumed anyway would be wheat and soy. So this list is big. Do the best you can, modify where you can, and avoid at all costs where you can also, to really calm down how much stress you're creating in your system just by ingesting these types of foods. Now, before I get into all the food that you should be eating during allergy season, I just want to remind you to click that subscribe button down below. Turn on the notifications. I am posting videos Monday through Friday every single week on allergies, gut health, brain health, anything that helps to boost your health and help you achieve something that I like to call total body mastery. So again, click that subscribe button and turn the notifications on so you don't miss out on a future episode. Awesome. Let's get into those foods now that you should be enjoying during allergy season. And I'll share with you a little tidbit about each one as to what its superpower is to help alleviate those pesky, miserable allergy symptoms. The first one is raw, local honey. Okay? The key here is local honey. What's beautiful about raw local honey is that it contains local pollen of the environment that's around you that you may actually be allergic to. It's counterintuitive, but by having a little bit of what you're exposed to in your environment on a regular basis, it actually can alleviate those symptoms. Take a couple of tablespoons a day for best relief. Hot and spicy foods, guys, I think I don't have to completely explain this one, but if you are a mucus producer, these hot and spicy foods help to thin out the mucus so you can better able yourself at getting rid of it and out of your system. You can add in garlic, onion, ginger, cinnamon, and cayenne to your recipes. Like, you don't just have to eat them, but you can add in all of those amazing spices and seasonings to really try to increase your ability to get that mucus expressed more easily out of your body. One of my favorites would be bone broth. Now, bone broth is just dense with nutrients, especially if you make it from scratch, which honestly isn't that hard. You can do it in a pressure cooker. There are some amazing recipes out there that make it super easy. Get bones from a local butcher or a local farmer. Actually, that's even better. A local farmer who is a forward-thinking farmer, or really what that means is they farm the way that God intended us to do farming. So there's no antibiotics, no hormones, no grains that these creatures were not supposed to be consuming, okay? Something that's awesome about bone broth is it's really healing to the gut. And the gut is where your immune system lives. So if we can keep the gut integrity the way that it should be, you're going to help out the immune system. So you're not constantly putting more stress through that system and wearing it down. The other thing that bone broth has been really helpful for is respiratory types of problems. There is something to be said for like grandma's chicken soup was like the cure-all. We just skip the soup and do bone broth instead. It takes all of that and amplifies it so much more. So really it can help calm the respiratory system and also can help express mucus a little bit more easily as well. Pineapple is delicious, okay? And it contains a few different nutrients that are really helpful for combating seasonal allergies. The first one is bromelain. Bromelain is an anti-inflammatory. So as we were saying again, that inflammation is something that will stress your body and suppress that threshold, making you more reactive to the world that's around you, this is a great way to reduce some of that inflammation. It also contains vitamins B and C, which are critical for helping all the normal processes of how your body responds to the environment that it's around. So having enough of these vitamins in your system can help alleviate those allergy symptoms as well. Apple cider vinegar is like the old wives' tale cure-all for all things. When in doubt, just do apple cider vinegar is kind of what the joke has become in this office. It really helps to break down mucus. Okay, it's very anti-inflammatory. It boosts the immune system and it stimulates the lymphatic system, which is part of how your body gets rid of all the junk that is cruising around through your body. You can combine this with that raw local honey. So if you did a tablespoon of organic apple cider vinegar with a tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, and then you could do half of your tablespoon of the local raw honey, mix that all together, and you can drink that down in some warm water, or you can just, people who just kind of spoon it and drink it down. Vegetables are like powerhouses for everything health related. They're full of a ton of phytonutrients, and some of them even contain higher levels of quercetin. Quercetin is really helpful for alleviating allergy symptoms. You can get a great amount of that from your Swiss chard, cabbage, beets, carrots, and yams. So make sure you're adding more of those foods into your diet really all year round, but during allergy season. And then the last one to include are clean proteins, meaning that they're proteins that come from unadulterated sources. They're being raised and caught, living the way that God intended them. Clean proteins are really important because proper immune function requires protein. So this is one way to boost your immunity. And then there's several other minerals that our body needs and our immune system specifically needs that we can get from those clean proteins. All right. What are some of those top nutrients to help squash out those just awful allergy symptoms? Let's just jump right on in. One that you could try would be spirulina. Spirulina has a lot of different amazing health benefits, but as it relates to allergies, it can actually stop the release of histamine, which is part of why you react. So you can add that into your regimen. Another one that works at reducing the production of histamine or the release of histamine is quercetin. So you can add quercetin into your daily regimen as well. Something that is awesome is a nutrient known as butterbur. Okay. This has been, it was originally founded for helping with bronchitis and asthma, but now part of its claim to fame is it's just as effective as like Allegra or Zyrtec for managing allergy types of symptoms. However, if you're a young child or you're pregnant or nursing, this is something that hasn't been studied on any of those populations, so you may not necessarily want to add that in if you fit any of those demographics. Probiotics, oh gosh, everybody should be taking probiotics anyway, because they are helpful at maintaining that microbiome, which is that ecosystem that lives inside of our gut. If we maintain microbiome and gut health and integrity, we are really going to amplify our ability to have a higher threshold and not be so prone and susceptible to things that are in our environment or even in our foods. So I definitely recommend taking a probiotic daily and not relying on yogurt as your source of probiotics. Vitamin A is great. It helps boost the immune system. It fights inflammation and also has antihistamine properties. But this is one of those fat-soluble vitamins, so it is possible to end up with too much of this in your system. So I would use vitamin A a little bit more sparingly, or have an evaluation of your micronutrients done so you know exactly where your vitamin A level is currently at. As I mentioned with the pineapple, bromelain is amazing for reducing inflammation. As such, it's going to help with some of the swelling of the tissues that are in the nose, the sinuses, in the throat. So adding some actual bromelain into your life would be great. Now, if you're going to take this in a pill form, it works best on an empty stomach. Otherwise, it's going to help you digest proteins if you consume it with food. And then last but not least would be stinging nettle. Stinging nettle is another antihistamine that is also going to work at, again, reducing that inflammation and just helping your body deal with the environment that you're living in. Now, the thing with allergies is none of you are the same. And while I gave a whole slew of information, not everybody's going to respond the same way. It takes some patience, especially when you want to work from a natural standpoint, but please stick with it and find what combination seems to work best for you. I have a son who has dealt with seasonal allergies, and I can tell you every single year, what ends up being my regimen is like what it was the year before seems not to really work. And we haven't changed our like living environment, but things are always changing in the world that we live in and in the environments that we live in. You know, certain pollens may be more potent one year compared to the next. So you may have to change up your regimen until you find something that works. Stick with that as long as you can. But if it seems to not work so well anymore, refer back to this video to see what other options should you try to add in. Bottom line is, it may not be everything of this list that I just gave you. It might be a combination, but then come next allergy season, the combination might look a little bit differently. So keep your patience and figure out what works best for you with the information that I just shared with you. Here's the thing though, guys, too. Allergies are generally the result of an underlying health problem. Ultimately meaning that there could be something more to what's going on with your health other than the seasonal allergies that you're experiencing. If you want to figure out exactly where your current level of health is at, what might be causing your allergy symptoms, and then what that looks like to resolve so that you don't have to deal with symptoms in the future, then I want you to just know down in the description below, if you click on that so it expands out, there's a link to my health challenge. Now, this is a 5-day health challenge that ultimately doesn't take 5 full days to get through. That will teach you exactly how to know what's causing your allergies so that once you have the cause, you will then know the path forward for resolving those. That way you can not suffer every single time April showers bring May flowers. You can actually enjoy the environment that you're living in once and for all and just put allergy symptoms to rest. So again, just look for that link that's down in the description below for the 5 free-day health challenge. And I can't wait to see you on the inside. You get to start immediately. So let's get to it, guys. All right. God bless.